Your entire quantum field can shift in one day because reality does not respond to time. It responds to state. This changes everything. What you call your life is not a slow construction project measured in months or years. It is a mirror reflecting the frequency you are holding now. Not yesterday. Not tomorrow. Now. You have been taught that healing is gradual, that transformation requires endurance, that you must repair damage layer by layer. But the field does not track effort. It does not measure struggle. It does not reward persistence. It mirrors coherence. The moment coherence stabilizes, the reflection changes. This is the law. You are not a person trying to fix a broken life. You are consciousness selecting a timeline. And timelines are not built through labor. They are selected through identity. The version of you that exists in alignment already lives within the field as a frequency. When you shift into that frequency, you do not create it. You recognize it. Recognition is instantaneous. Therefore the shift can be instantaneous. The belief that change requires time is itself a frequency. And the field mirrors that belief faithfully. If you assume transformation is slow, you select a slow timeline. If you assume alignment is available now, the field reorganizes now. Reality is not responding to your words. It is responding to your state. This is why one day is enough. Because one moment of true alignment is enough. Creation only happens in the present moment. The past is memory. The future is probability. The now is the only point of power. When your emotional state shifts from contraction to expansion, from resistance to allowing, the signal you broadcast changes. And the field must respond. You have mistaken time for process. But time is simply the unfolding of a selected frequency. Change the frequency and the unfolding changes. Not by forcing, but by allowing. Not by controlling, but by stabilizing your inner state. Your quantum field is not an external grid you must manipulate. It is the vibrational atmosphere generated by your identity. If you identify as someone healing, you broadcast lack. If you identify as someone aligned, you broadcast coherence. The field reflects whichever identity you occupy most consistently. The reset is not about fixing circumstances. It is about deciding who you are now. The moment you stop trying to repair and instead recognize your nature as consciousness itself, the pressure dissolves. You are not inside the field struggling to influence it. You are the awareness through which it organizes. One clear day of alignment outweighs years of effort. One decisive recognition outweighs endless strategy. When you choose coherence now, the mirror has no choice but to adjust. This is not hope. It is mechanics. If you are aligned with this frequency, subscribe and remain within it. Your field is not broken. It is reflecting. This is the distinction that dissolves years of unnecessary struggle. When you look at your life and see patterns you dislike, emotions you wish would disappear, or circumstances that feel heavy, the instinct is to assume something is damaged. But the quantum field does not fracture. It mirrors. A mirror does not judge the image it reflects. It does not resist it. It does not analyze whether the image is worthy. It simply returns what stands before it. Your field operates the same way. It responds to coherence or distortion without preference. It echoes the frequency you embody. When you feel expansion, clarity, relief, openness, that is alignment. The mirror reflects harmony because harmony is being broadcast. When you feel contraction, tension, fear, resentment, that is not evidence of failure. It is feedback. Contraction is guidance indicating that the frequency you are holding is misaligned with your deeper identity as consciousness. This is crucial. Emotional contraction is not punishment. It is calibration. You have been conditioned to interpret uncomfortable emotion as something to eliminate. But suppression distorts the signal further. Resistance adds resistance. When you fight contraction, you amplify it. When you allow it, you decode it. The field does not respond to your attempt to look positive. It responds to the state beneath the surface. If there is inner incoherence, the reflection will show incoherence. Not because you are broken, but because the mirror is accurate. Recalibration is not repair. There is nothing shattered within you. Recalibration is alignment. It is the gentle shift from distortion back into coherence. From resistance back into allowing. From misidentification back into recognition. When contraction appears, instead of declaring something is wrong with you, observe it as a signal. Ask what identity you are inhabiting in that moment. Are you seeing yourself as small, separate, struggling? Or as awareness itself, choosing a perspective? The emotional guidance system is precise. Expansion means continue. Contraction means adjust. This is not about forcing yourself into artificial positivity. Forcing creates further fragmentation. The mirror cannot be deceived by words. It reflects vibration. And vibration is shaped by genuine state, not performance. The profound realization is this: nothing in your field requires fixing. The only shift required is coherence. When your thoughts, emotions, and sense of self align, the reflection changes automatically. Not because you worked harder. Because you stabilized frequency. A distorted reflection does not mean the mirror is cracked. It means the angle has shifted. Adjust the angle, and the image adjusts. Instantly. You are not repairing damage. You are refining alignment. And the moment you stop treating yourself as a problem to solve, the field stops reflecting struggle. When you interpret emotion as guidance instead of failure, contraction loses its threat. It becomes information. The mirror has always been loyal. It has always been accurate. It has always been neutral. Nothing is broken. Only signals are being shown. And signals can be recalibrated now. Most people stay stuck for years not because change is difficult, but because they aim their effort in the wrong direction. They try to control what is outside of them while ignoring the frequency within them. They attempt to rearrange reflections without adjusting the signal being projected. Control feels productive. It feels responsible. It feels safe. But energetically, control is tension. And tension is resistance. The more tightly you grip an outcome, the more you broadcast the fear of not having it. The field does not respond to your desire alone. It responds to the emotional signature beneath it. When you try to force life into compliance, you send a message of lack. Forcing says, it is not here. Forcing says, it must be different. Forcing says, I do not trust the unfolding. And the mirror reflects that instability back to you. Not to punish you. To remain accurate. This is why timelines stretch into years. Not because transformation requires time, but because resistance prolongs distortion. Every attempt to control external circumstances without stabilizing internal coherence multiplies the signal of misalignment. Control creates resistance. Resistance slows flow. Flow is where reorganization happens. You may believe that pushing harder will collapse the gap faster. But pushing implies separation. It reinforces the belief that what you want is distant. The field echoes that distance. This is the hidden loop. Forcing repels. Calm receptivity attracts. When you allow instead of demand, you shift from contraction into expansion. Expansion signals alignment. Alignment signals readiness. The field reorganizes around readiness, not pressure. Another reason people remain stuck is emotional suppression. When discomfort arises, the instinct is to silence it. Distract from it. Override it. But suppressed emotion does not disappear. It distorts. It becomes background static in your frequency. The field cannot differentiate between suppressed fear and expressed fear. It only registers vibration. When emotion is denied, coherence fractures. When coherence fractures, reflections fragment. Years pass in this loop. Trying harder. Controlling more. Suppressing deeper. Waiting for evidence. But evidence follows state, not the other way around. And state cannot stabilize while resistance dominates. The solution is not more effort. It is less interference. When you stop attempting to manipulate the mirror and instead refine the signal, momentum begins. When you release control, you release resistance. When you allow emotion to guide rather than threaten, distortion softens. This is not passivity. It is precision. It is understanding that the external world is downstream from identity and frequency. You are not stuck because you are incapable. You are stuck because you have been trained to wrestle reflections instead of adjust vibration. The moment you shift inward instead of outward, the timeline shortens. Not gradually. Mechanically. Like the video now as a confirmation that this recognition has landed. This is where the mechanics become clear. Up to this point, you have understood that the field mirrors you and that control creates resistance. Now you must understand the language through which the field receives instruction. That language is emotion. Emotion is not a reaction to reality. It is the signal shaping reality. Emotion equals frequency, and frequency equals instruction. The field does not hear your affirmations. It does not analyze your plans. It does not measure your effort. It responds to the vibrational tone you are broadcasting through your emotional state. Every emotion carries a frequency signature. Expansion feels open, light, steady, clear. Contraction feels tight, heavy, urgent, resistant. These are not random sensations. They are navigational indicators. When you experience expansion, you are aligned. Alignment means your thoughts, identity, and deeper awareness are coherent. In that coherence, the signal becomes clean. A clean signal reorganizes the field quickly. This is why moments of genuine relief or clarity often precede sudden shifts in circumstance. The field received a precise instruction. When you experience contraction, you are misaligned. Misalignment does not mean failure. It means the identity you are holding in that moment contradicts your broader consciousness. Contraction is guidance. It is not a verdict. It is an invitation to adjust. Most people misinterpret contraction as something to fight. They try to override it with forced positivity. But forced positivity layered over tension does not change the frequency. The field registers the tension beneath the words. Suppression muddies the signal. Awareness clarifies it. Rapid recalibration happens when you stop arguing with emotion and begin reading it. If you feel contraction, pause. Not to judge it. To understand it. What belief is active? What identity are you inhabiting? Are you perceiving yourself as separate and struggling, or as consciousness observing a temporary distortion? The moment you shift from resistance to allowance, the emotional tone begins to soften. And as it softens, the frequency adjusts. The field responds instantly to coherent adjustment. This is not mystical. It is mechanical. Expansion means continue. Contraction means recalibrate. That is the entire navigation system. You do not need to control outcomes. You need to stabilize your emotional instruction. When your emotional state becomes steady and open, even if circumstances have not yet visibly shifted, the instruction has already been sent. The reorganization has already begun. Emotion is the bridge between identity and manifestation. It is the translator between consciousness and the field. When you master your relationship with emotion, you master the speed of your timeline. Nothing else communicates as clearly. Not thoughts alone. Not words alone. Emotion carries the charge. The field listens to charge. If you understand this, then you understand how a single day of conscious emotional alignment can reset everything. Because a single day of clean instruction overrides years of distorted signaling. Comment with the words, "I am ready," to anchor this timeline. Control feels like power, but it is fragmentation. It is the tightening of energy around a desired outcome. It is the attempt to manage every variable in the reflection instead of refining the signal being broadcast. And the moment control tightens, coherence fractures. Control is rooted in distrust. It carries the emotional tone of not enough, not yet, not safe. Even when disguised as discipline or determination, it often vibrates with subtle tension. The field reads tension as resistance. And resistance slows reorganization. Allowing is different. Allowing is not indifference. It is not giving up. It is the conscious release of energetic gripping. It is the decision to stabilize your state rather than manipulate the mirror. Where control constricts, allowing expands. Where control fractures coherence, allowing unifies it. When you attempt to force alignment, you paradoxically delay it. Forcing implies separation between you and what you seek. It reinforces the idea that what you desire is distant and must be chased. The field responds to that assumption faithfully. It mirrors the chase. Allowing collapses the chase. Allowing says it is already available within the field of possibility. Allowing says I trust the mechanism. Allowing says I will maintain coherence and let the reflection reorganize. This energetic stance communicates readiness. And readiness accelerates response. Relaxation, in this context, is not laziness. It is energetic precision. When your nervous system softens, when your breath steadies, when your thoughts slow, your signal becomes clean. A clean signal carries no distortion. No static. No contradiction. The field reorganizes fastest around clarity. Surrender is often misunderstood. It is not surrendering desire. It is surrendering resistance. It is releasing the need to dictate how and when. It is stabilizing identity without demanding proof. In surrender, the recalibrated signal holds steady. Think of coherence as alignment between your thoughts, your emotions, and your sense of self. Control introduces conflict between them. You may think positive thoughts while feeling anxious underneath. You may claim trust while scanning for evidence. That inner conflict weakens the signal. Allowing removes the conflict. When you permit the present moment to be as it is, without tightening against it, the emotional tone shifts from contraction to expansion. That expansion communicates alignment. Alignment communicates safety. Safety communicates stability. This is how the reset becomes sustainable. Not through effort, but through steadiness. You do not need to monitor the field constantly. You do not need to push circumstances into motion. You need to remain coherent. You need to remain open. You need to remain grounded in the identity that has already chosen alignment. Control seeks immediate visible change. Allowing understands that internal stability precedes external rearrangement. When you stop interfering, the field does what it has always done. It reflects. The collapse of control is the rise of flow. And flow is where timelines reorganize without friction. Relax. Not because nothing matters, but because your relaxation is the instruction. Creation does not happen across time. It happens within a moment. You have been trained to think of change as something constructed step by step, layer by layer, day after day. But the field does not accumulate progress the way the mind imagines. It responds to coherence now. The present moment is not a bridge between past and future. It is the only access point through which reality reorganizes. The past is a memory pattern still active in your nervous system. The future is a projection shaped by your current state. Neither has creative power. Only this moment carries instruction. When you stabilize alignment now, the update occurs now. Timelines are not built like structures. They are selected like frequencies. Every possible version of your life exists as potential within the field. The version that unfolds is the one matching your dominant state of coherence. If your identity, emotion, and awareness align in this instant, you shift to the corresponding timeline in this instant. The reason change appears delayed is because coherence is inconsistent. You feel aligned for a moment, then you doubt. You relax, then you grasp. You allow, then you monitor. Each fluctuation alters the signal. The field mirrors the dominant pattern. But when alignment stabilizes, even briefly yet cleanly, the field updates immediately. Not partially. Not gradually. Mechanically. The present moment is not small. It is infinite in depth. Within it exists every probability. When you enter it fully, without dragging the weight of past interpretation or the anxiety of future anticipation, your signal becomes pure. Pure signals reorganize quickly. You cannot create from yesterday. You cannot create from tomorrow. You can only create from the state you hold now. This is why a single day can reset everything. Because a single day lived in conscious coherence outweighs years lived in unconscious repetition. The mind wants to measure progress. The field responds to identity. If in this moment you see yourself as aligned, whole, stable, the broadcast changes. If in this moment you soften into expansion instead of contraction, the instruction changes. And when the instruction changes, the reflection must change. There is no waiting period within the field. There is only translation. Frequency translates into experience. This is why urgency is unnecessary. Urgency implies time is running out. But creation is not bound to a clock. It is bound to coherence. When you return to now, fully, something settles. The nervous system quiets. Thought slows. Identity clarifies. In that clarity, the signal stabilizes. In that stabilization, the field reorganizes. You do not need to reconstruct your entire past. You need to select your state now. Each present moment is a doorway. Most pass through it unconsciously, carrying yesterday forward. But when you step into it deliberately, aware that this instant determines the unfolding, you reclaim creative authority. Not through force. Through coherence. And coherence only exists now. Up to this point, you have understood the mechanics. You have seen how emotion communicates with the field and how the present moment carries creative authority. Now the recalibration moves deeper. Beneath emotion. Beneath thought. Into identity. This is where the true reset occurs. Identity organizes vibration. Who you believe yourself to be determines the frequency you naturally sustain. Not temporarily. Consistently. Emotion fluctuates when identity is unstable. But when identity shifts, emotion follows. Circumstances then follow emotion. The hierarchy is precise. Most people attempt to change circumstances first. They wait for proof before allowing themselves to feel aligned. They believe improvement outside will justify confidence inside. But this reverses the order of creation. Circumstances are downstream. Identity is upstream. A full reset does not occur when your environment improves. It occurs when your self-concept changes. If you see yourself as someone recovering, you broadcast recovery. If you see yourself as someone struggling, you broadcast struggle. Even if you try to feel positive, the deeper identity continues transmitting its signature. The field responds to the dominant identity, not surface-level affirmation. The 24-hour reset is an identity decision. In a single day, you can decide who you are. Not who you were. Not who you hope to become. Who you are now. When that decision stabilizes, your vibration reorganizes automatically. You do not need to force emotion. You do not need to chase outcomes. Identity sets the baseline frequency. If you identify as consciousness itself, aware and sovereign, your emotional tone softens. Expansion becomes natural. Coherence becomes steady. The field reflects stability because stability is being broadcast. If you identify as separate, small, dependent on outcomes for validation, contraction returns. The mirror echoes that contraction faithfully. This is why the reset can happen in a day. Because identity can shift in a moment. Identity is not fixed. It is assumed. And assumptions shape frequency. The moment you release the old assumption and embody the new one fully, the signal changes at its root. You are no longer adjusting symptoms. You are recalibrating the source. This is not performance. It is recognition. Ask yourself who you have been being. Not what you have been doing. Who have you been being? The one waiting? The one fearing? The one proving? Or the one choosing? When you choose deliberately, the field reorganizes around that choice. Not because you demanded it. Because you became it. A new identity stabilizes emotion without effort. It stabilizes thought without suppression. It stabilizes behavior without force. Everything downstream reorganizes around the core self-definition. The 24-hour decision is simple. It is not about becoming someone else. It is about recognizing the version of you that was always available within the field and occupying it fully. When identity shifts, the timeline shifts. Not gradually. Fundamentally. You do not wait for evidence to declare who you are. You declare who you are, and evidence arranges itself accordingly. This is the deeper reset. Effort feels noble. It feels disciplined. It feels like movement. But energetically, effort often carries a hidden message. It says, I do not have this yet. It says, I must work to become worthy of it. It says, I am separate from what I seek. The field hears that message clearly. Effort, when rooted in lack, reinforces lack. It stabilizes the identity of someone striving. And striving implies distance. The more you strain toward a version of yourself, the more you affirm that you are not that version now. The mirror reflects that separation faithfully. Recognition is different. Recognition does not strain. It does not chase. It does not attempt to manufacture identity. Recognition is the quiet awareness that what you seek is already present as potential within you. It is the shift from becoming to being. When you recognize yourself as consciousness, not merely a personality navigating circumstances, something relaxes. The pressure to perform dissolves. The urgency to prove fades. You stop trying to generate worth through action. You rest in the understanding that your essence is already whole. This awareness stabilizes the field automatically. Why? Because recognition aligns identity at its core. When you know yourself as awareness itself, you are no longer defending a fragile self-concept. You are not seeking validation from reflections. You are not attempting to secure stability through outcomes. You become steady. And steadiness is coherence. Coherence sends a clean signal. A clean signal reorganizes the field without effort. You do not need to push reality into place when your identity is no longer fragmented. The striving mind quiets because there is nothing to prove. Effort says, I will become. Recognition says, I am. Effort is tense. Recognition is calm. Effort calculates steps. Recognition embodies presence. When you operate from effort, your emotional tone fluctuates with results. Progress feels good. Delay feels threatening. Your state becomes dependent on evidence. This instability fractures coherence. When you operate from recognition, your state remains steady regardless of immediate feedback. You understand that the field reorganizes according to identity, not impatience. You remain aligned because alignment is who you are, not something you are chasing. This eliminates striving. Striving is rooted in the illusion of separation. Recognition dissolves that illusion. When you see that you are not inside the field trying to manipulate it but are the awareness through which the field organizes, the need to force outcomes fades. You do not improve consciousness. You express it. You do not earn alignment. You allow it. Recognition creates the shift because it corrects identity at its foundation. Once identity stabilizes, emotion stabilizes. Once emotion stabilizes, the signal stabilizes. And when the signal stabilizes, the reflection adjusts. Not through labor. Through embodiment. The reset is not achieved through effort. It is realized through recognition. The moment you stop trying to become and start remembering what you are, the field settles. Contrast has been misunderstood. You were taught to see hardship as evidence of failure, delay as punishment, friction as a sign that you are off path. But contrast is not an obstacle to alignment. It is the mechanism that refines it. Without contrast, preference cannot sharpen. Every experience that felt heavy, confusing, or unwanted carried information. Not to diminish you. To clarify you. When you encounter what you do not prefer, your awareness of what you do prefer intensifies. Desire becomes precise. Intention becomes defined. Identity becomes clearer. Contrast is refinement. The field does not generate friction to block you. It mirrors the frequencies you are exploring so that clarity can emerge. When something feels misaligned, the emotional contraction that follows is guidance. It points toward adjustment. It sharpens discernment. Most people misinterpret this sharpening as regression. They believe that if discomfort appears, they have failed. That belief creates resistance. Resistance creates distortion. And distortion prolongs the experience. But when you understand contrast as precision, something shifts. You stop labeling friction as wrong. You begin reading it as information. Contrast says, this is not aligned with who you are becoming. That message is not condemnation. It is calibration. Every challenge you have faced has defined your preferences more clearly. It has revealed what stability feels like by showing you instability. It has revealed what authenticity feels like by exposing performance. It has revealed what expansion feels like by highlighting contraction. Without contrast, your identity would remain vague. Friction is the sculptor of clarity. When you look back at past hardship through this lens, you remove the narrative of punishment. You see refinement. You see how each experience sharpened your awareness of what resonates and what does not. You see how your emotional guidance system strengthened with each adjustment. Contrast prevents stagnation. It interrupts unconscious patterns. It reveals where identity was assumed unconsciously and invites conscious selection. If you misinterpret friction as failure, you regress into doubt. If you interpret friction as refinement, you stabilize into precision. The difference is interpretation. Contrast does not mean you are moving backward. It means your perception is becoming more accurate. The discomfort highlights the gap between your current identity and the identity you are ready to embody. That awareness is progress. When you stop resisting contrast, you extract its value quickly. The lesson integrates. The signal clarifies. The field reorganizes around the refined frequency. This is why your past does not disqualify you. It has prepared you. Every contraction has sharpened expansion. Every misalignment has clarified alignment. Every unwanted reflection has defined what coherence truly feels like. Contrast is not a detour. It is direction. When you embrace this, you prevent regression into old interpretations. You no longer collapse into self-doubt when friction appears. You observe, refine, adjust. And refinement accelerates alignment. Nothing was wasted. Nothing was punishment. It was precision unfolding. Now the focus shifts to stabilization. You have recalibrated emotion. You have adjusted identity. You have recognized yourself beyond striving. But a reset becomes lasting only when coherence is sustained. The field responds not to brief alignment, but to stable alignment. Coherence is the agreement between thought, emotion, and identity. When what you think matches what you feel, and what you feel matches who you believe yourself to be, the signal becomes unified. There is no internal contradiction. No cross-current. No hidden resistance beneath polished words. The field responds most powerfully to unity. Incoherence is subtle. You may declare confidence while feeling doubt underneath. You may adopt a new identity intellectually while emotionally clinging to the old one. You may attempt to stay positive while internally scanning for evidence. These microfractures destabilize timelines. The field does not respond to fragments. It responds to the dominant pattern. When thought says one thing and emotion says another, the signal becomes distorted. When identity shifts momentarily but collapses under pressure, the reflection fluctuates. This is why many people experience temporary breakthroughs that fade. The alignment was real, but it was not stabilized. Stability does not require perfection. It requires consistency. Consistency is not forcing yourself to feel good at all times. It is returning to coherence quickly when you notice drift. It is recognizing contraction without building identity around it. It is choosing alignment again without self-judgment. The field is responsive, but it is also precise. It mirrors the frequency you sustain most steadily. If expansion is dominant, expansion reflects. If doubt becomes dominant, doubt reflects. Not because reality is testing you, but because it is matching you. Coherence creates momentum. When your thoughts support your chosen identity, and your emotional tone reflects that identity, the signal strengthens. The field organizes around strong signals more rapidly than weak ones. Weak signals are inconsistent. Strong signals are steady. You stabilize by simplifying. Let your thoughts align with who you have decided to be. Let your emotional state be guided by expansion rather than urgency. Let your behavior emerge naturally from that alignment instead of from fear. This alignment between internal layers removes distortion. Inconsistency destabilizes timelines because it introduces mixed instruction. The field cannot reorganize around contradiction. It reorganizes around clarity. This is not about controlling every thought. It is about noticing when you drift into old identities and gently correcting course. The correction does not require force. It requires awareness. When awareness returns, coherence returns. As coherence becomes familiar, you stop oscillating between extremes. You become steady. And steadiness communicates readiness. The field responds to readiness. A recalibrated signal must be maintained not through tension, but through alignment. When you remain unified internally, reality has no conflicting instruction to mirror. It reflects the dominant coherence. Stabilization is quiet. It is not dramatic. It is the calm certainty of identity expressed consistently. And consistency transforms a shift into a new baseline. After coherence is established, there is one final tendency that can quietly undo momentum. It is the impulse to monitor the shift too closely. To check constantly. To measure. To ask, is it working yet? This impulse is subtle, but it introduces interference. Micromanaging the reset slows it. When you repeatedly scan your reality for confirmation, you shift from trust into evaluation. Evaluation carries tension. It implies uncertainty. And uncertainty fragments the signal you work to stabilize. There is a difference between awareness and hypervigilance. Awareness is calm observation. It notices emotional shifts without panic. It recognizes old patterns without identifying with them. It corrects gently and returns to coherence. Awareness is spacious. Hypervigilance is tight. It watches for evidence with urgency. It looks for signs that something is wrong. It anticipates collapse. Even if you have chosen a new identity, hypervigilance broadcasts doubt beneath the surface. The field responds to the underlying tone, not the surface declaration. When you micromanage, you subtly communicate that you do not trust the process. You reintroduce control through constant checking. Control, as you already understand, creates resistance. Resistance distorts momentum. Non-interference is not passivity. It is disciplined trust. Once the signal has been recalibrated and coherence is stabilized, your role shifts from adjusting to allowing. You no longer need to push the river once it is flowing. You do not need to dig up a seed to see if it has begun to root. Interference interrupts natural organization. Trust maintains stabilization. Trust says the instruction has been sent. Trust says coherence is enough. Trust says I will remain aligned regardless of temporary appearances. That steady internal stance strengthens the signal rather than fracturing it. Doubt often disguises itself as responsibility. You may believe you are being practical by monitoring outcomes. But energetically, constant monitoring communicates instability. It tells the field that alignment is conditional. Conditional alignment produces conditional reflection. When you practice non-interference, you stop negotiating with the mirror. You stop seeking reassurance from reflections. You hold your identity without demanding immediate proof. This steadiness deepens coherence. Momentum builds quietly. The most powerful shifts often occur when you are no longer obsessing over them. When your nervous system relaxes. When your thoughts are not fixated on measurement. In that relaxed state, the signal remains clear and uninterrupted. Awareness remains present. You still notice your internal state. You still adjust gently if contraction appears. But you do not spiral into analysis. You do not interpret every delay as failure. You remain centered. Non-interference protects the reset. The field reorganizes most efficiently when it is not being second-guessed. Trust is not blind belief. It is alignment maintained without agitation. You have recalibrated. You have stabilized. Now allow. The art is subtle. The impact is profound. Hold steady. Let the reflection catch up. Evidence is seductive. You shift your state. You stabilize your identity. You hold coherence. And then the mind asks the familiar question. Where is the proof? Where is the visible change? Has anything actually happened? This is where many resets collapse. Physical validation always trails vibrational alignment. Always. The field reorganizes the unseen architecture first. Circumstances adjust after the signal has stabilized. If you demand evidence before the reorganization completes, you reintroduce doubt. And doubt alters the signal. State precedes manifestation. This is not philosophy. It is sequence. Your internal frequency sets the pattern. The field responds by arranging probabilities. Physical reality then catches up to the dominant pattern. But the catching up is not instantaneous in appearance, even though the shift at the level of frequency is immediate. If you require proof to remain aligned, you make alignment conditional. Conditional alignment is unstable. It fluctuates with appearances. And fluctuation weakens the signal. Most people revert here. They feel aligned for a day. Calm. Clear. Certain. Then they look outward and see familiar conditions. The mind interprets this as failure. Contraction returns. The old identity resurfaces. The timeline reverts. Not because the reset failed. Because the state was abandoned prematurely. You must understand this deeply. The absence of immediate evidence does not mean the absence of change. It means the physical layer is still translating the new instruction. Translation requires stability of signal. Imagine changing direction in a vast current. The turn happens instantly at the source, but the visible shoreline takes time to shift perspective. If you panic and turn back because the shoreline has not moved yet, you return to the original direction. Hold the new state. Evidence follows consistency. When you remain coherent without demanding immediate validation, the signal strengthens. As it strengthens, probability organizes around it more firmly. Small indicators may appear first. Subtle shifts. Different interactions. New ideas. These are not coincidences. They are early reflections. But even if nothing visible appears right away, your task remains the same. Maintain alignment. Maintain identity. Maintain trust. This removes dependency on proof. Dependency creates tension. Tension signals lack. Lack reintroduces the old pattern. The field mirrors whichever state is dominant, not whichever state you briefly touched. Freedom comes when you no longer need reality to confirm your shift. You know it internally. You feel the steadiness. You recognize the coherence. That recognition is enough. When state is stable, manifestation becomes inevitable. The timeline you selected does not disappear because you cannot yet see it. It stabilizes as long as you stabilize. The moment you stop asking whether it is working and simply remain aligned, momentum continues. Evidence is an effect. State is the cause. Do not reverse the order. Remain in the cause. Let the effect unfold. Now the final layer reveals itself. Everything you have adjusted until this point has prepared you for a deeper recognition. The separation you believed existed between you and the field was conceptual. Useful for understanding mechanics. But not ultimately true. You are not inside the field attempting to influence it. You are the field. The idea of fixing your quantum field implies distance. It suggests there is an external energetic grid responding to you from the outside. But there is no outside. There is only consciousness modulating itself through identity and vibration. What you have called the field is the dynamic expression of your own awareness. When identity shifts, the field shifts because they are not two separate things. When emotion stabilizes, the field stabilizes because emotion is the movement of consciousness. When coherence strengthens, the field reorganizes because coherence is your natural state when not fragmented by misidentification. There was never something broken outside of you. There was only consciousness temporarily identifying with limitation. This realization dissolves effort at its root. You no longer attempt to manage an external force. You understand that every fluctuation in experience is an internal modulation of awareness. The mirror metaphor served its purpose. Now even the mirror dissolves. There is no mirror reflecting you. There is only you appearing as experience. The belief in separation created the illusion of struggle. It made it seem as though you were sending signals into a vast energetic system that might or might not respond. But the response was always immediate because the sender and receiver were the same. Consciousness modulates. Experience expresses. When you identified as small, the field appeared constricted. When you identified as striving, the field appeared distant. When you identified as aligned, the field appeared supportive. These were not reactions from an external intelligence. They were shifts in the pattern of awareness itself. You cannot be separate from what you are. This recognition is the true reset. Not because it changes technique, but because it changes ontology. You stop perceiving yourself as a character navigating reality and recognize yourself as the awareness through which reality unfolds. From this perspective, alignment is natural. Expansion is natural. Coherence is natural. Distortion only occurs when consciousness forgets itself and collapses into a limited identity. The moment remembrance occurs, fragmentation dissolves. There is nothing to control because there is nothing outside of you to manage. There is nothing to force because there is nothing resisting you. There is only modulation of perspective within infinite awareness. The one-day reset was never about adjusting an external field. It was about remembering your nature. When you know you are the field, stability deepens. You no longer fear fluctuation. You understand that any contraction is simply a temporary narrowing of focus, not a threat to your essence. Consciousness remains untouched. You are not influencing reality. You are reality expressing itself through the lens of identity. And when identity aligns with awareness, experience aligns effortlessly. The field was never separate. It was always you. The one day was never about time. It was about decision. When you first heard that your entire quantum field could shift in a single day, the mind may have interpreted it as a compressed timeline, a rapid process squeezed into 24 hours. But from this expanded awareness, you can see more clearly. The day represents a decisive recognition. A moment where identity stabilizes without retreat. Duration has never been the mechanism of transformation. Recognition has. A day is symbolic. It marks a boundary between before and after. Between unconscious identification and conscious embodiment. Between striving and knowing. When identity settles into coherence and does not waver, reorganization is immediate. The shift does not accumulate across hours. It locks in through clarity. You could spend years approaching the edge of recognition, adjusting emotion, refining coherence, releasing control. And then in a single instant, the realization lands fully. I am not becoming aligned. I am alignment itself. In that instant, the organizing principle of your experience changes. Identity stabilizes. When identity stabilizes, vibration stabilizes. When vibration stabilizes, reflection reorganizes. Not gradually at its source, but instantaneously at the level of frequency. The physical layer unfolds according to that new instruction, but the pivot has already occurred. This is why the day changes everything. Not because 24 hours passed, but because indecision ended. Most timelines extend because identity oscillates. One moment aligned. The next moment doubtful. One day confident. The next day uncertain. This oscillation keeps the signal unstable. The field mirrors instability faithfully. But when you decide and remain decided, something irreversible happens. The internal argument dissolves. The questioning fades. The old identity loses authority. You no longer negotiate with past narratives. You recognize. Recognition is not dramatic. It is quiet certainty. It does not need reinforcement from circumstance. It does not seek validation. It simply is. From this stabilized identity, experience begins to reorganize around you in subtle and then obvious ways. Opportunities align. Interactions shift. Internal peace deepens. Not because you forced outcomes, but because you stopped fragmenting your signal. The day that changes everything is the day you stop returning to who you were. It is the day you stop asking whether alignment is real and start embodying it without apology. It is the day you no longer interpret delay as failure. It is the day you trust coherence more than appearances. Nothing mystical occurred across hours. A decision crystallized. And once crystallized, it holds. You do not need another technique. You do not need another adjustment. You need stability in recognition. The rest follows naturally because the field, which is not separate from you, reorganizes around your dominant identity. One day is enough because one clear decision is enough. When you stop wavering, the timeline stops wavering. That is the shift. That is the day. The timeline is stabilized not because you are watching it constantly, but because you are no longer wavering within yourself. This is the integration. You began with the idea that your quantum field could shift in one day. You moved through understanding reflection, releasing control, reading emotion as instruction, selecting identity, embracing contrast, stabilizing coherence, and dissolving separation. Now all of it condenses into one lived truth. You remain aware. Permanence does not come from vigilance. It does not come from guarding your thoughts or policing your emotions. Vigilance implies threat. It implies that something could be lost if you are not careful. That subtle fear fractures coherence. Awareness is different. Awareness is relaxed. It is steady. It notices without panic. It adjusts without drama. It does not grip the new identity in fear of losing it. It rests in it naturally. The stabilized timeline is not fragile. It holds because you hold your identity without negotiation. You are no longer attempting to prove alignment. You are no longer seeking confirmation. You are no longer oscillating between who you were and who you chose to be. You have chosen. And you remain chosen. This is the difference between a temporary shift and a permanent recalibration. A temporary shift feels elevated but uncertain. A permanent recalibration feels calm and obvious. There is no inner debate. There is no urgency. There is no subtle leaning back toward old narratives. You understand now that reality mirrors your dominant state. You understand that emotion guides alignment. You understand that control introduces resistance. You understand that contrast refined you. You understand that recognition shifts identity. You understand that you are not separate from the field. But you do not need to rehearse these truths constantly. They have become baseline. The stabilized timeline unfolds not because you are forcing it forward, but because you are no longer interrupting it. Your awareness remains present. When contraction arises, you see it as guidance. When doubt whispers, you do not build identity around it. You remain steady. Steadiness is power. Not loud power. Not dramatic power. Quiet authority. You wake up and you are the same aligned being you chose to be yesterday. You respond from that identity. You move from that identity. You feel from that identity. The consistency becomes natural. And reality adjusts around that natural consistency. There is no finish line because there was no race. There is only continued embodiment. Continued awareness. Continued coherence. This is how one day becomes a new life. Not because of hours past, but because of identity stabilized. You are not maintaining the shift through effort. You are living it through recognition. The timeline holds because you hold yourself. Calmly. Clearly. Without strain. Subscribe and share this with someone who needs to hear it before their timeline closes.